Welcome back to my studio. Today we're going to make greeting cards using cardstock, old book pages, and a bunch of material like gesso, acrylic inks, Derwent Inktense pencils, Posca Pens, and golden so flat. All of the products that I use are listed in the description below. And I'm starting with a catalyst tool. You could use a gift card or any kind of palette knife. And I use it to apply my gesso on my book pages. I'm using white gesso. You could use clear, you could use a colored gesso, you could tint your gesso if you like. I like to use a white background. And I'm going to go ahead and do a whole bunch of pages so I have lots to play with. And you'll see once we get started with the ink, you're going to want to have a lot of pages. It's a lot of fun. You are going to want to let your pages dry completely. Let that gesso dry before you start the next part with the inks. And I sped it up just so you could get an idea that I'm using a bunch of different kinds of book pages, but nobody wants to watch this in real time. All right, so we've got our stack of book pages, and I have selected some inks. I have a spray bottle of water rather. And now it's just play. So I'm going to drop some ink in. And spray it with water. And then flip my page over, the gessoed side down, and there's a technique, guys. It's really, really simple. Now, you can go one color, you can mix your colors. I try to pick colors that aren't going to make mud when I mix them together. So you might want to keep that in mind. And this time I went with a couple of cool colors and a couple of warm colors. So the pink and the red obviously are warm colors. And later you'll see I use some cooler colors. And you can go back and add a little bit more water and mush it around again. You can add some more ink. Really, the sky's the limit. Once you get going, it's kind of intuitive. Your instinct will take over, and you'll see that you can just keep adding a little bit of color, a little bit of water, a little bit more color, a little bit of water, or a lot of water. And just keep playing until you run out of paper. And now you can see I went back in with a second color. So now I'm on my cool colors. Try to move around the paper, have fun with it. And here's my stack. You're going to want to let them dry completely, maybe overnight, or you can heat dry them if you want, but you're going to want to dry them completely before you go to the next step. Okay, well, the step after this. So the next step is to select the papers you want to use. So I picked out my favorite papers, put the rest of them aside. Those will be for another project. They could be slightly damp at this point if you wanted to, but you're going to want them dry before you actually start drawing your focal element, which for us this time it's going to be wonky flowers. So I measured my cards, I measured my cards and I cut them so they have a 1/4 inch around the border. So I cut them down to size, a 1/4 inch smaller than the cardstock. And I wrote it down because if you can believe it, sometimes as I'm cutting partway through, I forget what size I'm supposed to be trimming. Maybe other people have the same problem. I don't know. And once you have all your pieces trimmed down, I come in with my Derwent Inktense pencil. It's like a watercolor, but you'll see when we apply water to it, it is much more vibrant. So I'm just doing the outline of these wonky flowers. They are simple, but they're really cute, and I just love the way they turn out. So don't overthink it. If it looks like a flower, it's got petals, it's got a stem, people will know it's a flower. Okay, once you have all your flowers drawn out, you come back in with water and a paintbrush, and you're just going to go out. You can see, look at how vibrant that is. So you're just going to outline everything that you just drew in water. It's just a brush and water. If you've not played with Inktense pencils and you can get your hands on some, do yourself a favor. They are a lot of fun. They're one of my favorite materials to use. And it's nice because they have a tip, they're a pencil, so they've got a nice tip so you can do some detailed work if you want. And I find them at Plaza Art, Jerry's Artorama. You could find them at probably any fine art store or Michael's or anything like that. And I'm sure you can find them online. All right, now once your flowers are outlined, you do not have to dry them in between. In fact, I don't, because I love the way the So Flat. I use white, the So Flat, and the Inktense pencils. It's just, I don't know, there's something different about the way they interact as opposed to using a regular acrylic paint. I guess it's because it's flat, I don't know. But if you have the opportunity to give it a try, it's beautiful. If you don't and you have regular acrylic paint, go for that too. Craft paint, it doesn't matter. It's just what I have and I like it, but it could be any kind of paint. And it doesn't have to be white. You can do any color. Your Inktense pencil can be any color, or you could use a watercolor pencil, whatever color you want to use. I just like the way the materials work together. And those are my color preferences. So you're going to want to paint in all of your petals. And because you're working with a wet medium and water soluble medium, you might have to go back over the lines once they dry if you covered it up a little too much. I personally like the way that looks, so it doesn't bother me. Mine, as you can tell, are not precise. Also, it's in the name, right? They're wonky flowers. They're not supposed to be perfect. Now, you are going to want to dry in between this step and the next step. So you can either let it dry overnight. It's acrylic paint, so it'll dry fairly quickly, so you really wouldn't need to leave it overnight. But I went back in with a small Posca pen and did just a little bit of detail on the inside of all of the flowers. And then you'll see I'm going to go back in with a thicker Posca pen and add some color on all the petals. And again, the petals are wonky. There's not any real rhyme or rhythm. It's just getting some color down on the flower petals. Now I did heat it with a heat tool again just to make sure the Posca pen was completely dry. It dries fairly quickly, but you want to make sure that you're not smearing it when you glue it down on your cardstock. Okay, so now I'm grabbing my favorite Yoo-Hoo glue stick, and I like to make sure I get all the corners really well, and then get some glue there in the middle, make sure that it's not going anywhere, and you're just gluing it to the front of the cardstock. I take sometimes, and I think I did on this one, a gift card and use it as a palette knife and smooth it out, which is why you want to make sure they're completely dry before you do this. And there you have it, a whole set of cards. You could do it in an afternoon. You could do it in a couple days. You could do a whole bunch of them. But here's a close-up. Let me know if you give it a try. And thanks so much for watching.